Okay. It's okay, good. I see that it's working. My volume, my audio is working well. I normally don't do a live stream back to back like this. I did a live stream here. Let me flip my head backwards here. I normally don't do a live stream back to back. I did a live stream yesterday. It was about the First Amendment auditors, and how they have been a big influence in educating the public with with the public and police officers and government officials that recording in public in a public easement or in a public area. Pinky Twinkie, uh, uh, this one's probably gonna give you a bit of a pinch of a nerve because the subject is religion for my live. So let me continue with what I was saying. So yesterday's live stream was about First Amendment auditors and how it is we all have the right with the five freedoms that we have, which is freedom of speech, freedom to assemble, freedom to redress your government, which is to protest, freedom of religion, which is the one I'm going to talk about today. And so the thing is, and we can talk after my live, Melinda, if you want to. I know we had a chat, we had a talk last night. Um, so, okay, so one of the freedoms, okay, the First Amendment auditors go out in public just to rehash what I did yesterday. They go out in public and they test the First Amendment on government agencies like post offices, courthouses, police stations, city halls, um, and they even go along the sidewalk in front of businesses, right? So that's one of the freedoms is to film and freedom of press, which is filming in public. And they're on that side. If they're on the sidewalk, they can film, right? Because they're in public. Um, so and that's great. They've been doing a great job for the last since I've been listening to the movement. I call it a movement because it pretty much is. There's a lot of people that are joining into it and becoming First Amendment auditors and really holding government officials and even just public citizens or private citizens to understand that that is one of the freedoms that they have is to if they want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If they to freedom of expression. Uh, and to to have freedom of press, which is filming in public, and people get scared of a camera, right? I've gone through that. One of the freedoms that I understand that we all know is freedom of religion, right? Now I'm going to tell you my story so you understand where I'm coming from with this. Okay, I was born here in America, right? My parents are from Mexico. They were born in Mexico, so big different in culture, right? Because I'm an American, right? So, and I think I kind of explained this once before. Somebody asked me, um, "Are you Mexican?" I'm like, they truly just straight up asked me, "Are you Mexican?" Because my name is Ricardo, right? Ricardo, right? He was asking me like sincerely, "Do you believe you're Mexican?" And I told, and he was asking me like he was trying to like just he didn't ask me in a mean way. He was just like, "But are you Mexican?" And I'm like, "Nope, I'm not Mexican." And I understood what he was saying. He was talking about culture. Am I culturally Mexican? I'm not culturally Mexican. I like Mexican food. I can speak Spanish very well. Yo puedo hablar español muy bien, but that doesn't mean I'm Mexican. Just because my parents are from Mexico doesn't mean I'm Mexican, right? It means that I have the bloodline of Mexican descent, but that's pretty much it. My culture is okay. Yeah, I just had Mexican food. Actually, I had a torta, uh, Pinky Twinkie. So the thing about religion, though, is, and I felt compelled to talk about this because I just had a conversation with my mother, and this is the divide with religion in my from my experience, and I'm talking to you about my experience, and personal. It's a very personal to me, and I'm not alone in this for sure because I've seen wars go happen between different religions like Palestine and Israel. They kill people. They kill each other over who's right and who's wrong because they're fighting. I think it's the Judaism, and it's basically they're both have similar religious, but one of them is like Hamas, and one of them is whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to go into that too much. But basically, they fight over where the origin of their religion is the territories of their origin is where it's from, and they kill each other for it. They've gone into physical war over it. So that's the point I'm trying to make. It's an extreme point, but it's real. Okay, so religion can divide people. It can be a great thing, and that's one of the five pillars of the First Amendment: freedom of religion, freedom to practice whatever religion that you have faith in. I just call it. See, here's the thing, and it might offend some people, but I just call it: you believe in this religious book. This is your book because there's so many different religious books out there. You decided, or people decide, this is my book. This is the book I'm going to have faith with. And and the cool thing about religion to me, if to me, if it's done in a way that is with happiness and with happiness to love yourself and to love the people around you, and it's in a loving way, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. But when it's done in a violent way, then you're using religion as a weapon. I'll describe it in a very direct way, and I'll give you an example of when I was a child. Okay, my parents are from Mexico, so naturally 90 plus percent for sure. And I don't have a calculator, have interviewed or did a censor uh, on how many people are Catholic. But trust me, no, you don't have to trust me, but I know that every Mexican I've ever met are Catholic. Some of them are. My sister's Christian. She converted to Christianity. It's just fine. It's cool. They're similar. They're similar but different. Um, One of the differences that I know because I've studied the basics on both of them is Jesus in Catholicism, and to be Catholic, Jesus is God. To me, Jesus, well, he's male. That's I think logically. So I'm thinking, why he's has a male has genitalia. So God has genitalia. I can't see. I'm getting very, very logically direct. So that's one of the things that I can't grasp my head around. So fine, that's that's part of the being Catholic. That Jesus is God. In Christianity, Jesus is the path. He's the bridge. Like I remember seeing a picture where there's a person with like his hands out, like the cross kind of thing, and there's from one cliff to another cliff. He's the path to cross that bridge to believe in God, which God is like a Holy Ghost. That one I can get a little bit. I can perceive that one a little bit better. Okay, so now the thing is, um, and that's just my understanding of being Catholic and Christianity. That's just a basic understanding, but um, and there might be different variations of Christianity. I don't know. I don't I haven't gone that deep into it, but And the reason I went live is because I was having a conversation with my mother, and I was let me go back to the personal childhood experience that I had. The childhood experience that I had was that I remember as a child, of course, parents are going to teach their kid to be the religion that they believe, that the parents believe in, right? And so that's fine. That's traditional. That's how it usually happens. But I remember being in church one time. I think I was like 5 or 6, somewhere around there, 6 or 7 years old, somewhere in between that age range. And I didn't know what religion was. It's like we're going to church, and we're gonna go to church. We're gonna eat some food afterwards, and then we're gonna go home. I didn't really. I was a kid. I didn't really have a full grasp of. As a kid, you don't really have a full grasp of everything that's going on. But one of the things is I'm sitting there giggling. I'm a kid. I'm just playing around with my sister. We're similar ages, and we're goofing off, right? And I guess it was time for everyone in the church to pray. So everyone had to kneel and pray to do one of the verses that they do at that time period for the church whatever, how long it was, 45 minutes. And when I was giggling and laughing with my sister, my father and mother were kneeling down and praying, and he saw that we were just goofing around a little bit, and he grabbed, I remember this, I'll never forget this. He grabbed my ear and physically pulled it like hard, like he yanked my ear, and he said in Spanish, "Kneel down and pray." Now that is dangerous. That's not religion to me. That's not positive. That's not loving. Forcing religion on someone physically like that, and that's just a little piece of physicality that can happen to someone. And I'm a child, right? A child. And if it happened to me, I know I'm not alone. I know for sure that other kids have gone through this sort of thing. And I'll give you another example. I'll give you another example. Well, I'll get to that. I'll see if I can make a note of that in my mind. I eventually went to college, right? I went to college. I graduated. But the biggest experiences was I lived on campus. My biggest learning experience there was that I learned to understand different people, different cultures, different races. And I learned about different people, and I learned about different religions because I met a lot of people that had different religions. I've met Muslims, I met Buddhists, I met Christians, I met Catholics, and then I started thinking, and I remembered like my experience as a child, and I was like, well, once I started fit like personally hearing all these people from different, it didn't happen all at once. It happened over the years that I was there, right? And I was like, man, so which one's right? Basically, I'll cut to the chase. It's like, which one's the better one? And that's when I started questioning. Like, I didn't know, so I decided I'm not going to conform to one book, one religion, one Bible. I thought I basically turned atheist, which now and over the years I think that's wrong, but that's the sort of the conversion that I've been through in my life. But being violently physical in a religious setting or in a religious belief, of faith is what it's called, is not religious. Then you're just forcing. You can't force someone to be religious. And I'll go into the next experience that I had. I was a counselor. Okay, I have a degree in psychology. I don't know where my certificate is, but I have a bachelor. It's called a bachelor of arts, um, a degree, and I majored in psychology. and I graduated with that major, and I became a counselor for a youth in crisis center in a suburb of Chicago. And I don't work there, and that place closed down. It was literally called Youth in Crisis. They changed it to a different. It was more. It wasn't. They changed it to a state funded agency that or a company because the place I worked at was an agency, which means that it worked on donations. So my salary was based on donations from the two cities that we did counseling in. So that's how we survived. We did our counseling in a house in a it wasn't like a a business company type looking business, it was a house. So that's it was like a poor counseling area, but it was my entry level counseling job. So the story I'm trying to give you guys is for anybody who listens to this is I had a client who was he was about 14 or 15 years old, and they brought his parents brought him in because they were like super Christians. I mean, I'm telling I say it in that term because I mean they were like religious, like super religious. And I'll give you an example. When they came into my office, the supervisor assigned that client to me. And when they came into my office, the mother, the father, and the kid, and they told me what the problem was. They said that their son was being rebellious, and I was like, "How is he being rebellious?" And they said, "Well, because," and they gave me a story. They said that they would go to church, and he would go to church with them, and at some point he started hating church. He started hating his religion, or not his religion, his parents' religion. And he drew a shirt up. He had a white shirt, right? I guess what they told me was that he had a white shirt and he painted like satanic stuff on it. And when he went to church, he wore a coat to cover that shirt up. And I guess when it was time to go up to the to go up to go up front for what I don't remember. If he was supposed kids were supposed to go up front one at a time to do something. And he went up before he went up front, he took his coat off and he walked up front with all this satanic stuff. And he had his hair spiked. He spiked his hair to look satanic. And that was his way of defying his parents to stop forcing him to be religious, to be in their religions. And that's when religion goes wrong. You know, when you for he was being so defiant, he was like he that's one of the he was doing other things, but that's just a very good example of how he was defying his parents to stop forcing him. And so I guess the after the I mean we had good sessions. The other example I wanted to give of how crazy, I'm sorry, I'm going to use the word crazy. These parents, not well, they was mainly the father because the mother was willing to work with me. I said, well, at some point I said, well, why don't we take a break with with having him go to church and doing certain activities with the religion and with church. And then the father got extremely angry and he said, "You can never take a break from believing in God, from having your faith. There are no breaks in that." And I was just like, "Well, but your son is being defiant. Why don't we just take a break until I can intervene and help the family situation so that you guys can so that your family can be cohesive and you don't divide each other." But the father was got so angry that when I said that, he started raising his voice, and I was just like, "Okay." I said, "All right, why don't let me talk to your son, if you guys don't mind. I want to talk to your son for a bit." And I asked him politely to go to wait in the waiting room. And I talked to this to their son, and he was explaining to me that they were forcing and all this stuff, and so I could totally. That's why I totally related. I could relate to that client because I went through similar to similar situations. So to me, there's people that have faith and they do it in a loving manner and they do it for themselves. To me, that is good. That is a very good. That I mean, we don't we sometimes we go through tough times, and sometimes we don't know where to turn. And if it's your faith, and if it's your Bible, your religion that you turn to pull you through those tough times, that is exactly why religion does work really well if it's for your own personal things, right? I love it when people express themselves in that way. That's good. And then, and the cool thing is the best people that are like that are the ones that don't say no, no. They don't force you to try to do it. They just say, "This is my faith. This is my belief. This is my I own this faith. This is for me. If you want to do it, you do it." But they don't even say that. They're just saying they don't even force their religion on you. Those are the best kind of people that I love because they are truly kind in their own mind, in their own personal being. Um, and I love that. So that's the good kind. But to be honest with you, in my experience, that's rare, because people religion divides people. It can divide people, and it does divide people. And the best example is the Israel and the Palestine and the Palestinians. They kill each other. They go to war. They violently go to war over which one's right, and they debate and then all that, and then but they physically go to war over it. So when if you start using religion as a weapon, then something's wrong. Then run for your life is what I would say. That's what I did because religion shouldn't be a weapon. It shouldn't be I'm better than you because my religion is better than yours. It's like the way kids fight, but you're an adult. People are adults now, and they fight the same way as a kid. I'm better than you, and because I have this whatever physical object that's better than yours, and whatever. So be careful with religion because it's like when you start saying when people start saying, well, you know, religion is good, it's like voting. Some people think of it like voting. Like you have to vote. It's part of being a citizen of the United States. You have to vote. Okay. So if I have to vote, which is wrong because I don't vote, if you have to vote, which side are you going to choose? Are you going to choose the left side or the right side? So now I have to vote, and now I have to choose either Democrat or Republican. Now I have to vote one way or the other. And you know what? That also divides people. If you vote left side, Democrat. If you vote right side, you get Republicans publicly shame Democrats. Democrats publicly shame Republicans. That's almost the same similar thing. It's not similar. It's not the same, but it's similar to religion when you use it as a weapon. It shouldn't be that way. That's why I stopped voting, and that's why I don't conform to a book. Now, one thing that I do believe in is that I think, and I believe in this, that I think that this place that we live in, this earth in Mexico or in other Hispanic or Spanish speaking places, they call it Um, in Spanish, they call Earth tierra. Tierra literally means soil. This is soil that we live on, which is true. The ground is soil. It's that's what it is. Well, I mean, there's water and soil, and then the soil and water together work together with the sun and the moon to create all these beautiful things, like us humans, flowers, plants, trees, birds, all the other species. So, with that being said, I think that this is a creation that we live in. That this something I don't know. I can't explain it. So that's why, in a way, I guess that's my faith that this is a creation. It's not a book. I didn't go to the library. It's just what my thought process brings me to, that this place that we live in is special. And one of the things that I think about, um, also, that it's sort of like um, a process of elimination is NASA, which is a government agency, a tech of technology, uh, tells us that, or scientists has told us that there was a nothing, there was like nothing at all, and all of a sudden there was this big bang, and all these planets became Earth was created with this big bang, and all these the universe and infinite planets, infinite space, black holes, and the Milky Way, and um, all these stars and everything. And it's just that doesn't that sounds like a book of that sounds like a fantasy, a book, fictional, scientific fictional fantasy book that kids read of. That's why they call it the Big Bang Theory. Theories are not proven. They're theories. That's why it's a thought that it could be this way, because it's people can't logically explain it. So they say, well, this is just the Big Bang Theory, that there was nothing, and all of a sudden, and all of a sudden, all Earth is born, and all these other planets. First of all, there are no other planets. All that space stuff is fake. But I'm not going to go into that. I've gone through it before, and I've actually talked about it in public with other people who believe in all this stuff. Um, but yeah, so I guess it's not a religion, but my belief is that this place is a creation. But I'm not going to be on long, because this kind of subject does kind of exhaust me, because it's my childhood experience was horrible, and it wasn't horrible, but it was bad enough that it deterred me from be conforming to one book, is the way I put it. Um, Now I'll tell you another. I guess I'll tell you another little thing that happened, with one of my uncles. He's religious. He's Catholic, just like he's Mexican, and his wife. They're both they're both Mexican, and they're both Catholic. And they again they grew up their kids as Catholic. Now, when one of their daughters converted to Christianity, they cried. They got depressed because she converted to Christianity. And it's like, I mean, is it I don't know. I couldn't understand that. I just couldn't understand it, because, like, she still believes in God, and she's your daughter. Why would you cry that her faith is in a different book? See, this is why I call it a book, because she said this book is better for me than this book, and it made her parents cry, like depressed. Not just cry once. I mean, they were depressed. And this is how religion can divide people. I mean, they didn't shun her or anything like that, or say, "I don't wanna talk to you anymore." They nothing like that happened. It was like a sadness for them. So, I don't know. I don't to me, that's a little bit weird. I'll just say it that way. But this is a form of division that religion can create. And once you start once it starts dividing people that you love, then you have to back off and say, "Do I is my religion more important, or is my love more important for this my son or my daughter, or my brother or my sister?" You know, am I going to pick religion over my love for a family member, or somebody in my immediate family? Now, some people choose their religion, believe it or not, and that's why one of the basic things that people say is at the workplace, don't talk about uh, religion or what is it called? Government, like government or politics or religion, or like sexual orientation, because it can cause like it can divide people, because it does divide people. It's that simple. And I gave you personal examples, and I've given basic examples of worldly examples of like Israel and Palestine. So that's why they logically tell us, or tell people, don't talk about politics, religion, or sexual. Now it's sexual orientation, because now there's LGBTQ, FYZ, whatever you want to, the 20% of the alphabet people that have taken over the alphabet. You're not supposed to talk about that, because then people get offended for that, because now they identify as a transgender, or there's bisexuals and homosexuals and whatever. So you're not really supposed to talk about that, because and I don't want to talk about it, because it can cause a division when you're really just supposed to go there to do your job. So that's those three. uh I call them weapons, because some people use those as weapons against other people. And not and I'm being very like direct, because it does happen. And one of the things that happened in a conversation that I was having with my mother, was that I told her the story about when my ear got pulled to kneel down when I was a kid. I didn't know what the hell religion was. uh, I didn't use that word intentionally, what the hell that was. But anyway, I didn't know what it was, but I was my ear was pulled to forcefully kneel down and pray. And then as I grew up older, I was like, this is religion? That's not love. That's hate. That's not hate, but that's violence. It's violent. And it's not right, man. It's not right to do that. It's not how you bring good faith, or good loving faith, to bring somebody in a positive way. So I mean, there's another example that I'm thinking of. When I was a kid, I was told, when I was like 11 or 12 years old, I was told that I was a very good long distance runner by my gym teacher, my physical educational teacher. She said, "You should join cross country and track." And I said, because she timed me on a mile, and I guess I ran, like, at seventh grade, I ran like 6 minutes and whatever seconds. She said, "Hey, that's very good. You should join the cross country and track team." And I said, "Okay, I will." So I did, or I wanted to, but I have consent form signed by my one of my parents, and I took the consent form. My father wouldn't sign it. and my mother always follows whatever my father says. She's a follower, right? Sorry, but she is. So they wouldn't sign it, so I forged it, right? But the teacher knew that I forged it because I wrote like a freaking seventh grader, you know. So I finally convinced my mother to sign it. She signed it because I wanted to do it, right? I wasn't forced to do it, and I became a great. Look here, I'll show you. Let's see if I can see it. See, there's my trophy case, right? So I became a very exceptional, very good runner. I finished 23rd in the nation. So, but I wasn't forced to do it. I loved to do it. I wanted to do it. Now, on the other hand, I have a niece who was they her parents put her in gymnastics classes, and those classes were vigorous, like to a point where those kids were they were attempting to, well, at least the parents were attempting to make those kids like to maybe go to the Olympics or something. But she didn't want to do it, so they basically forced her to do it. She loved it at first. She liked it because what little girl doesn't like dancing? But when it goes to 3 or 4 hours in training, it doesn't become fun anymore. Then you start feeling pain. And she started crying because she didn't want to go anymore. So, and they still try to force her. That is not how you, that is not, especially for a child. You shouldn't force a child to do anything like that. That's an extra curricular activity. So, when you truly love something to do something, you become good at it because you want to do it. You have that inner strength to do it. When you're forced to do it, you become defiant. Just like the example that I gave with that kid that was a client, a 14, 15-year-old kid who became defiant over his parents for them forcing him to be religious. When you force somebody to do it, especially a kid, he will turn. A human being will turn against against violently, not violently, but physically making someone to do something. I'm telling you, Pinky Twinkie, how my day is going today. It made me go live today because I had a conversation with my mother. So it kind of triggered me to talk about this. So, and like I've said in the past, when I go live, it's me expressing how I feel about certain things because most of the people who sub my channel understand what I'm talking about. And I've been on live streams before where they actually have like what's called a stream yard, and they let people come in to talk about whatever subject is on. And I've been on hundreds of them, not hundreds, but it's a lot. I've been on a lot of them, and it was, it's important. It's important to have someone to talk to, but with the kind of thinking that I have, it is like I'm kind of out of the box, so to speak. I'm not really mainstream because most people don't think the way I do. I'm not religious. I don't vote. I don't believe we live on a ball. I know we don't live on a ball. Those three things alone, I mean, will tell people that I'm a conspiracy theorist. No, I'm a logical thinker. I'm a critical thinker. I think things through and I make mistakes, right? I'm a human being. I make mistakes, but I think things through before I make a big decision like that and say, you know, I'm not going to be religious. I don't conform to one book. I know how the whole presidential system works, and it's all pre-made before it even happens. You know, the elites choose which president they want to go next, or which prime minister goes next. the whole vote thing is just a show, which also, like I said, it divides people when you vote one way or the other. So that's one of the reasons why I don't vote. Apart from the fact, well, no, the main fact is that because it's just the division that creates between people, and people get angry. People get angry. Oh, you must be a Trump supporter. Oh, you must have voted for Biden because you're crazy. You're stupid. Or you're a Trump supporter. You're a jerk. You're an a hole. And it's an attack. It creates war. It's a civil war between people in a country, in almost every country, probably every country. But I can't speak for every country. I can only speak for this country and my own experience. Uh, so um, oh, I got a text message earlier. Let me see who it was. So the thing is that is be careful, man, because I know Melinda. We talked before about, if you don't mind me saying, I know you're religious and all that, and we've had our conflicts in the beginning when we first started talking about that, because it took a while, but you understood that, or I'm expressing it right now live on my live stream, that it's just there's too much conflict for me to be in that sort of thing. But if, like I said, if any person who is religious, if you do it for yourself, for your own personal self, good for you. If it's a positive thing for you, or for yourself, do it. That's a great thing. Just don't force it on people. That's all I request. you know so yeah. So anyway, that's really all I wanted to say. I don't want to keep repeating myself. So but if anybody, I know, the last live stream, I always go back and look at how many people actually viewed the live. Most people don't really comment. If I use the term flat Earth and I start talking about flat Earth, I'm pretty sure a lot of people will comment. But I don't really go into that anymore, because I don't really want to say I don't believe that this Earth is flat, because of the fact that there is mountains, hills, and valleys. I know for a fact that we do not live on a ball, because water always finds its level. There, if you pour coffee into a cup, that cup contains that water. So for water to exist on this earth, that water has to be contained. It's not clinging to the earth. The water is being contained, like just like a cup of coffee. That coffee is being contained by that cup. The same logic with a lake, a pond, or an ocean. The shores are the containment ship of that body of water. Same thing. That's why the earth can't be a ball, because water, if I if you pour people say, "Oh, well, gravity makes it stick to a ball." But and I'll say to them, "Okay, so does gravity exist right now in front of us? Like if I drop my cell phone, is it going to fall because of gravity?" Yes. Okay. So if I pour a cup of a pitcher of coffee onto a ball, will gravity make that coffee stick to the ball? Think about that. That logic of gravity is bullshit. Okay? All that universal pictures, before you watch a movie, you see a universal picture, you see a ball, a computerized electronic, what is it called? CGI, computer generated image of a ball. That symbolically uh, is that image is stuck in your mind to believe that you live on a ball. No, and they tell us that the ball is spinning 1,000 miles an hour. Unless I'm drunk, it's not spinning. I hate to use that, but I have gotten drunk before. This earth is not moving. We are stationary. This is a stationary Earth. That's what I say. I'm a stationary. This is a stationary Earth. I don't conform to say I symbolically say I'm a label myself, but I know that this Earth that we live in is special. It's a creation somehow, some way. I don't know, but it's not a Big Bang theory, and water is always has to be contained. So there's no way that we live on a ball. All that ball thing is bullshit. I'm sorry to swear, but it does upset me when people fall for this stuff. Anyway, I'm letting my anger out a little bit here. So, um, I thought I'd come on live, and because that religious thing kind of triggers me a little bit. So I thought I'd come on and talk about that. And I'm not alone because when I went to it's called the Flattoberfest. It was in North Carolina. I think it was 2021. It was when the whole COVID thing was going on. And I went there and I took a camera. I bought a camcorder. I don't. It's around here somewhere. And I was filming the whole thing. Looked like a typical tourist. And I ran into this guy, and we started talking about different subjects. And one of them was about religion. And he was religious. I can't remember what it was. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I was filming him and filming other people that were surrounding us because they were intrigued by the subject or the subjects that we were talking about. There's a guy walking by in a suit, and he waved it like he was walking by behind people, and he waved to me, the camera, and he's like, and he was like, hi, and then I'm like, and then I noticed him, and I told him, hey, come on over, come on, join the party, so to speak, and he walked over, and he noticed that we were talking about religion, and we were talking about different religion, and this guy that's religious, he like knew his stuff. He like knew all kinds about different religions, and then as I let them talk because I was the camera guy, so to speak, my own camera guy, and I at some point I interjected and I said, well, I grew up Catholic, or my parents made us grow up Catholic, and then but then I this and that, and I told him my experience a little bit, and then the guy that I waved over, he said, well, yeah. And he said, yeah, there's all these religions. And I said, and one of the things I said was, which one is right? I started questioning my own belief of anything. And I said, well, which one is right? Because I met all these people in college with different faiths. I said, which one is right? And he said, well, yeah. He said, what if they're all wrong? I never even thought about it like that at that time. But when he said that, I was like, maybe you're right. Maybe they're all wrong. I don't know. But see, that's the thing about thinking about it, at least thinking about it, and not just following that path of whatever other people around you are doing. At least question it. And he said it exactly right. He said, "What if they're all wrong? What if? Not that they are all wrong." He said, "What if they are all wrong?" And I was like, "Damn, that's true. What if they are all wrong?" And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm not saying that they're all wrong. I'm saying I don't conform to one book. This place that we live in, it has to be special to me. To me, it is special because this creation, what created it, who, I don't want to say a who, because then I'm conforming to a human being. I want to say, I'd rather say what, because we don't know what this, I don't even want to say a thing, this creation, this creators, maybe it's more than one, how this place that we live in is created, how we exist, and all that. So that's the whole thing about me, as how I am, is like I'm a I can faithfully say, it's not faithfully, it's I know I can say that it's I'm a critical thinker. Like, I'll question things before I say, yeah, I'm gonna go down that path. Like, I'm going to full heartedly go down that path and say, because I know this is right. I know this is 100% right. But there's very few things that I can say that about. But and that was the cool thing about that was the cool thing about going down to that place, because I met a lot of people that have gone through similar paths like me, that have questioned a lot of things, and they say, "Well, I've been lied to about a lot of things." And that's what a critical thinker does. They question things. They just don't say, "Okay, I'll follow the sheep." Like sheep follow each other, right? They follow sheep's the sheep. That's why they call people sheeple, because they're people that are sheep. They're sheeple. They just follow the herd to wherever the sheep are going without thinking about what's happening. And that's critical thinkers can't they have to question things before they can say this is right, before they, so to speak, go down that rabbit hole. So anyway, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, if I've spoken to a lot of people, and the last person that actually came in here that I didn't know who she was, I did have a conversation with her through Facebook, and she was a truther. She's a truther. The only thing is, I wish we would have. I'm not going to go into. I'm not going to say anything bad, but the thing is, like, there were some differences uh, that were happening. So, and I think I did a live on that, and it was about conversation. So basically, if you're gonna request to have a conversation with someone, have a conversation. Don't make it a monologue. You know, when you have a conversation, somebody says something, you respond, and go on and so forth. That's basic communication. But anyway, I'm gonna get off the live stream, but as always, I won't try. I will end it on a positive note. So, just love each other, man. Just treat others the way you want to be treated. If you have kids, don't force them to do something. Don't live vicariously. Don't make them do something because you didn't have a chance to do it. Or don't make them do something because you loved it, so they should love it. Just love them, be good to them, and you know, be good to each other. Don't enforce violence, or don't force people to do things that, or if it's for their good, like to eat, for example, some basic things, or to not eat certain bad things. That's something basic, but at least explain to them kindly why things should be the way the way it should be. But things that are like religion, or voting, or being a certain sexual preference, you know that's that's something you shouldn't force. You shouldn't. I mean, if you do it in a loving manner, I guess a kid will. They're like sponges. They're gonna just absorb anything that you give them. If you give them like lots of love, they're gonna just say, "I love this person," so everything she does or he does is great. So they're gonna follow in your footsteps, so to speak. So just be kind to each other. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Anyway, take care. Thank you for joining. Till the next time. Peace.